Walt Disney Company started in 1923 as a cartoon studio. The company has drastically changed over the years. Disney is now involved in the following industries: media networks, studio entertainment, consumer products, parks and resorts, and interactive. In order to help Walt Disney Company maintain their competitive advantage and increase their stock price, we have come up with various recommendations. This presentation will cover the recommendations we have for each line of business. Now I'm going to talk about the media network industry. The performance of media networks is essential in Walt Disney's success. As you can see from the chart, media networks make 60% of Walt Disney's operating income. Walt Disney is the market share leader in media networks with 29%. The second leader market share is Time Warner at 17%. The strategy Disney uses to maintain their competitive advantage over rivals is by creating very strong brand names. These strong brand names are ESPN, Disney Channel, and ABC Networks. These brand names are imperfectly imitable because the legal barriers set forth by their copyrights. In order to sustain their competitive advantage, we recommend Walt Disney buy the rights to broadcast the Olympics. This is extremely important for Walt Disney because their mission is to become the world leader in entertainment and information. There is no better way to become the world leader in information than to broadcast the Olympics around the world. NBC, a competitor of Disney, is in control of the Olympic broadcast until 2020. From our external and SWOT analysis, it is clear that increasing competition is the strongest threat to Disney. By acquiring the rights to the Olympics, Walt Disney can steal viewers from its competitors and also establish its ESPN brand name around the world. This strategic move is a perfect internal fit with Walt Disney because the company owns the worldwide leader in sports, which is ESPN. Another recommendation for Walt Disney's media networks is to vertically integrate. They can vertically integrate by acquiring Netflix or a similar internet streaming media. Disney is currently in a joint venture with NBC and Fox in their ownership of Hulu Plus. Though this gives Disney ownership over a video streaming media, we believe it is important to acquire a media that does not involve its direct competition. We learned in our internal analysis of Porter's five force models that a major threat of substitute for media networks is video streaming. Technology is quickly changing, and Walt Disney needs to adapt to this change. Walt Disney would be able to take Netflix to the next level. Netflix does not have current movies because they don't have the revenue to fund the high cost to own the rights of these movies. Disney has huge profits and would be able to fund the rights for newly released films. This type of vertical integration was very similar to the Harlequin case we discussed in class. The similarity is when Professor Fogarty gave us the example if Harlequin actually purchased bookstores. I'm now going to talk about our recommendations for the studio entertainment industry for Walt Disney Company. Let me first give you a brief history about Disney Studios. It began in 1923 when Walt and Roy Disney produced a series of Alice comedies. It then branched out into the industry powerhouse we know today. Walt Disney created Mickey Mouse in 1928, and this led to a sustainable competitive advantage because they owned the legal rights to Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse led to the creation of other iconic characters such as Donald Duck, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, etc., and the characters shaped Disney's future. They produced their first full-length movie in 1937, and it was called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This movie led to other movies about princesses, and Disney was able to enter other industries because of it. They have theme parks and consumer products that are dedicated to the characters they created. At first, the movies were targeted towards children, so throughout their history, they acquired companies. In 1983, they added Touchstone Pictures to their studios. In 2006, they purchased Pixar. Pixar is a company that Steve Jobs built basically from nothing during his time off from Apple. This deal was completed for $7.4 billion. Finally, Disney acquired Marvel Studios in 2009 in order to capture a different audience. Disney was able to horizontally integrate in order to capture a large market share, and they did this without losing their original audience. The case we talked about in class, Packard, Disney was able to escape their fate by having multiple studios without the Disney name. For example, Touchstone Pictures produces films that are aimed at the adult audiences, and if they were produced under Disney, they would have lost some children audience. Marvel Studios and Pixar also enabled Disney to reach other audiences besides their original niche audience. Our recommendation for the studio entertainment portion of Walt Disney is for them to continue their current production. They have built a strong brand over the years, and they are currently second in the market share in the studio entertainment industry by 0.2%. It's a very highly competitive industry. They need to continue their differentiation strategy for their original audience while producing other movies under their other brands. A recommendation to gain market share and become an industry leader would be to horizontally integrate again and to acquire a smaller firm. Lionsgate Entertainment currently has 4.3% of the market share in the industry, and Disney would benefit from acquiring them. It will also make their presence in the adult market greater because Lionsgate Entertainment focuses on the adult market more than the children's market. This would increase their market share significantly because Disney is the market leader when producing to children. Their competitors make up their difference when it comes to producing to adults, so that is where they could gain market share. Another recommendation is to continue with the different brand names because this is going to avoid straddling. Straddling has led to downfalls to many companies because they did not have a sound corporate structure and thus entered too many markets under a single brand. The external analysis of this industry bodes well for Disney, and that is why they should continue production the way they have been doing things for years. The Porter's Five Forces, as you can see from the slide, shows that everything is in Disney's favor except for the level of competition and substitutes. There is a high level of competition in the industry, but it is with a relatively few large competitors because the barriers to entry are so high. It requires a large investment to start a studio entertainment firm, so it is unlikely that a new firm can compete with Disney. The leader in the industry, 21st Century Fox, and their main audience is to adults. So that is why I recommend they acquire a smaller firm to boost their market share. They have very little competition in the children's market. The pestle analysis of the industry shows that consumers are sensitive to the economy because during the recent economic crisis, people stopped going to movies and they started using substitute products. Technology is crucial to compete with this industry because it lowers the cost of production and it further differentiates themselves from their competition. Old technology is noticeable by the audience, and since the competition is so high, they'll easily switch. The legal barriers are substantial for this industry, and it gives Disney a sustainable competitive advantage because they own the rights to a number of successful characters. For example, Stan Lee, the creator of many of the Marvel superheroes, tried to sue Disney for using his characters. He was ultimately unsuccessful because Disney owns the rights to his studios. Disney has many strengths that would suggest that they should continue doing what they are doing. Disney is the oldest player in this industry, and they were able to obtain a significant brand name during their time. They are considered the 14th most valuable brand in the world, and this is first for all of the industries they compete in. There was not one competitor in the studio entertainment industry that was in the top 100. The strong brand name indicates that they have loyal customers. Many of their customers will watch a movie solely based on the fact that Disney produced it. This saves on advertising and gives Disney a competitive advantage. Legal barriers are also a strength for Disney because they are protected from their competitors stealing their characters. A weakness for Disney led to my recommendation to acquire an existing firm in the industry because their main product is focused towards children. This limits potential earnings, and this can be fixed by having another studio dedicated to producing for adults but not under the Disney name. Also, a large investment is required for the production of a movie, which is a weakness for Disney. Disney once lost over $100 million because of a failed movie. The VRIO analysis shows that Disney's resources are extremely rare and are imperfectly imitable due to legal barriers. Their competition can attempt, but they'll never be able to recreate another Lion King, Cinderella, Snow White, and the list goes on. Their organization is also similar to Apple in that it is a U-form structure which allows Disney to be innovative and adopt ideas more rapidly. These are our recommendations for the studio entertainment portion of the Walt Disney Company.
Now I will be talking about consumer products. Disney Consumer Products brings in the majority of its revenue through the sales of children's products, such as dolls, toys, games, and books. The children's toys and games industry is currently going through a lot of change with customer demand, as it has been greatly shifting to an electronic product preference. With this shift in the industry, our first recommendation for Disney Consumer Products is to keep up with the changing customer preference trends in the external environment. This is crucial because a successful product that they released last year may not be considered cool or up to date this year with the young customer base that they have. This recommendation can be carried out through focus, which we learned in class is a main technique in which firms can create customer value. Our next recommendation for Disney Consumer Products is to carry out activities that further differentiate their products. They already have a strong differentiation strategy through their brand recognition and unique shopping experience throughout all Disney Store locations, but it can be expanded to further differentiate themselves from their competitors. This can be done by conducting customer surveys on what their customers would prefer to see in upcoming product lines, then using that information and tailoring it to their new products. Apple did this in the late 90s and had a lot of success, as they learned most of their customers preferred a colored computer as opposed to a plain black or beige computer. This is a simple way to differentiate their products while satisfying customer needs and preferences. Disney Consumer Products also has a large opportunity to cut costs through backwards integration. Like JetBlue buying Airbus, Disney Consumer Products could backwards integrate by purchasing the supplier of their raw materials. Not only would this move cut costs, but it could also create value and, most importantly, create a sustainable competitive advantage for them. Having three different business segments throughout the company, the Disney Store, Disney Licensing, and Disney Publishing Worldwide, operating in a new industry is nothing new to them. So supplying their own raw materials to themselves would be a great internal fit, as they are used to a wide range of business operations. The sustainable competitive advantage would come by increased flexibility, as they do not have to adhere to prices that outside suppliers may demand for the raw materials. Now I'm going to pass it over to Doug, who's going to talk about parks and resorts.
Disney Parks and Resorts is already very profitable in the United States and the foreign markets that they are already participating in. In 2011, Disney's various parks and resorts around the world held 8 of the top 10 positions of most visited parks, and 3 of those 8 parks are located in foreign markets. In 2009, Disney's CEO set out 3 goals, one of which was to increase investments in upcoming markets such as Latin America, Russia, India, and China. These up-and-coming countries can increase Disney's profits if the right investments can be made in them. Disney has proven that if they build parks, even if people are skeptical about the cultural differences, they are still wildly successful and make them a must-see destination in those countries. One obstacle Disney will face with investing in foreign markets is one that they have already faced before, and it is the cultural differences as well as the differences in laws and regulations in other countries. One example was when Disneyland Paris was being built. Locals where the park was being built were angry with the decision to build it there because they believed it was bringing American consumerism to a market where it had no right being in. Disney has 2 strategies it can pursue in foreign investments. The first would be licensing. Disney Parks and Resorts already has one licensing contract with Disneyland Tokyo. In exchange for 7% royalties, Disney provides them with managerial and technological know-how for operating the theme parks and resorts. A benefit of licensing would be that it decreases the risk compared to being involved in a joint venture. Disney does not have to invest as much money and time into the park as they would have if they were owners of the park. They do have to be careful since they do not have control. They must make sure that the Disney brand name does not get tarnished in any way. Not having majority control can be a problem for Disney, but because it does give managerial expertise, they can help guide the decision making and show where the theme parks and resorts needs to be. The other option that Disney has for international expansion is through joint ventures. The rest of Disney's parks and resorts are through joint ventures, and these are located in Paris, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. Disney still gets royalties for licensing, however, they get more revenue from the operating fees. Being involved in a joint venture in a foreign market can be beneficial for Disney because they can learn more about the market they are in since they would be more involved. The other company in the joint venture can also help Disney get used to the foreign culture and can provide knowledge about what the local consumer would want, while Disney still having more of a say in the final decisions that are to be made. One problem with a joint venture is there is an increased risk. Disney Shanghai is Disney's largest international investment ever, and if things go wrong for whatever reason, Disney has a lot more to lose than if it just licenses its products to a different company. The other company in the joint venture should be a company where they are planning on building the new parks and resorts to help Disney get used to the market, but it can also lead to problems because of different cultural ownership strategies and ideas of what direction the parks and resorts should go in. Overall, a joint venture would be a better strategy for Disney. Disney would be able to learn a lot about operating in foreign markets, and even if there is a much higher risk involved with a joint venture, Disney has proven that no matter where they build parks and resorts, it is always successful, and the overall knowledge gained and potential for increased revenues would be worth the risk. In conclusion, expanding Disney's media markets by gaining the rights to the Olympics or acquiring online media outlets would increase Disney's exposure. The acquisition of a small company in the film industry would help boost Disney's market share in this industry and increase revenues. For the consumer products market, there's been a shift in demand to electronic products recently, and Disney must make sure that they are finding out what products consumers want and need. Disney Parks and Resorts can increase its revenue, as well as exposure of the Disney brand name, by participating in joint ventures with companies in foreign markets for building new parks and resorts. Disney is already one of the most well-known and reputable brands worldwide. Being a publicly owned company, investors want to see an increase in stock price, and we believe that if Disney would take into consideration our recommendations, they would see an increase in stock price because either revenue would be increased, costs would be decreased, or they would gain an overall competitive advantage.